and welcome into Cronkite Sports Spotlight here on Pac-12 Plus. I'm Kelsey Calasi, and with me is Cameron Miner. Cameron, we have a great show today as we preview the women's basketball game between Arizona State and Brigham Young. Cameron, we are pretty spoiled here in Arizona with really nice weather, but this week has been pretty rainy and cold. You can tell it's December outside.
Well, it's definitely been chilly outside. I'm personally not a fan of the cold, but the ASU women's basketball team does seem to be heating up in this cold weather. You know, they're looking to defend home court again, and we have so much to get into, so I said let's get straight into it.
Sounds great. Starting us off, we go live to Desert Financial Arena with Pac-12 Plus broadcaster Alex Gall. Alex, after playing a tournament on the road last week, what are you expecting to see from the Sun Devils in their return home?
Yeah, Kelsey, all things considered, the Sun Devils had kind of a disappointing weekend in Estero, Florida last week. They beat Maine, they beat Middle Tennessee, but they have a tough loss to their toughest opponent of the weekend, the Purdue Boilermakers. They shot under 35% on the weekend, and going forward, it's going to be important for them to get back to the style of play that suits them best. That's generating steals, and that's generating fast break points. Through 7 games this season, they're averaging almost double the amount of steals per game this season as they were at this point last season. So for them, that's the catalyst for their offense. That's what they do well, and that's what they have to get back to tonight and in conference play going forward. But you can catch tip-off with me at 6 p.m. from Desert Financial Arena. And for now, sending it back to the studio.
Thank you, Alex. It seems the Sun Devils are ready to face off against the Cougars as they just finished tournament play and are taking strides in the right direction. A major part of the Sun Devils' success has been senior leader Ja'Tavia Tapley, a transfer from USC who has been nothing but reliable for the Sun Devils. She leads the team with 12.9 points per game and is shooting over 50%. For head coach Charlie Turner-Thorne, her quick rise to a role of leadership is a big part of their success.
She's doing a great job for us. I mean, right now, she's got nobody to learn from either. So everybody that plays a post position for us is new. So it's just hard for all of them. Like I've said many times, she's a blessing and, you know, working hard and getting better.
Arizona State senior forward Ja'Tavia Tapley serves one of the most unique roles for the young Sun Devil squad, both veteran and newcomer. Tapley, the newcomer, transferred into Arizona State as a grad student in spring 2019 after playing 3 years at USC. Tapley, the veteran, has played for 3 years in the Pac-12 Conference, arguably the best conference in the entire country.
I can truly say that contact is something that I appreciate about the Pac-12. We play tough, we play hard, like that's what I like. It pumps me up in games, it gives me adrenaline to know that we're playing a tough team or to know that I have to, you know, use my strength.
Off the court, Tapley is inspired by her family members and new teammates.
Very tough uncle, Uncle Rodney, shout out to him. He really installed being tough in me at a young age when I was a little kid. And every time I think about running hard or not running hard or like playing hard defense, because he still gets on to me to this day. So, like, yeah, definitely. He is one of those mentors that I'll never forget.
Her time in the maroon and gold will be short-lived, but that's hardly an issue for the 6'3" student athlete. Tapley's journey to Tempe was anything but easy. And now, after playing consistently through the first half of preseason, she's going to be one of the players to watch in the Pac-12 Conference. She's a Swiss Army knife on this team, and you can have major expectations for her going forward. For Cronkite Sports, Gabrielle Ducharme.
Tapley has certainly left an impression in her first 7 games as a Sun Devil. In fact, she's one of several players who have started the season off well. To talk more about the depth of this ASU team, we bring in WCSN basketball reporter Jack Johnson.
It's good to be here, Kelsey.
Thanks for being with us. So we just heard about the impact of Ja'Tavia Tapley is having, but she's not the only new face who's performed well on the team. What other newcomers are making an impact?
Well, obviously, Kelsey, it starts at the top with Ja'Tavia Tapley, a transfer coming over from USC. She was a role player, and she didn't get a lot of minutes. Now she's in her 5th season, and she's showing her experience, averaging 13 points a game. Behind her on the depth chart, it's all about Sarah Bigetti, the freshman from Finland, and she's an example of how ASU can recruit and get players outside the United States. Taya Hansen, Iris Embulito, 2 sophomores, an example of that. Bigetti, one of the leaders in defensive rebounds as a guard, and I think that shows her consistency, her competitiveness, and intensity. That's going to earn her more minutes as the season goes on, so she's shown a lot of promise. That's a newcomer to look for.
Moving over from the new faces to the returning class, who stood out as most improved so far this season?
Well, when I think about improvement, I think about the progression of two key players, and I just mentioned them. Taya Hansen, Iris Embulito, two sophomores, part of the promising 2018 freshman class. Those are two players that I think about when I look at the future of this ASU women's basketball program. Iris Embulito, her progression coming along very nicely. One of the team leaders in assists and defensive rebounds. She's an impact player both on offense and defense, and her physicality to get to the hoop, and she finishes very well and gets those and ones because of her physicality. She makes a lot of free throws, and that's a force on offense.
So ASU sits at 5-2 so far this season. What are your takeaways from their performance thus far?
My takeaways is they've beaten who we expect them to beat, and they've lost the games that are toss-ups 50-50. And I think that's just because this team is learning who they are. They lost two of their key players from last year, senior Kiana Ibis and Sharnae Johnson-Chapman. They're having to replace them with underclassmen like the Jetty, Hansen, and Embulito. And because of that, they're still learning who they are. They're learning their identity. But as long as they rely on Riley Richardson, their point guard floor general, Robbie Ryan, one of their best performers, and Jamie Rudin, who's injured at the current time, but who's really improved and stepped into the role from a role player to a consistent contributor, I think they'll be fine. And Charlie Turner Thorne's teams, they always compete in a tough Pac-12 conference. They always seem to win 20-plus games, and they always make the NCAA tournament. I expect nothing less this season.
Excellent. Jack, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Great analysis from Jack. While we focused a lot on the Sun Devils and what they bring to the table, you can't count out BYU. The Cougars sit at 3-2 and are looking to redeem themselves after a loss to Utah. Here in the studio, analyst Haley Smilo will explain the strengths and weaknesses of this BYU team and what you can expect in this matchup.
Thanks, Cameron. This will be the first time the Cougars and the Sun Devils will face off since 2010. The one thing that hasn't changed since the matchup nearly a decade ago is the coaches. Charlie Turner Thorne is an ASU staple, just like Jeff Judkins at BYU, who has been at the helm of the program in Provo, Utah since 2001. As Judkins' Cougars come into Tempe, the Devils will need to protect the paint. BYU outscored Utah by 28 in the lane, and in the last 4 games before that averaged 12.5 more paint points than their opponents as well. Down on the block, junior center Sarah Hampson, who towers at 6'7", will be a problem on the glass as she averages over 10 rebounds a game. Meanwhile, out top, junior guard Paisley Johnson is the woman to watch. She leads the team in scoring at 15.2 points per game. The Devils will have to stay balanced defensively to come out on top. We'll see if they do so in just a few minutes. But for now, back to you guys at the desk.
Good stuff, Haley. And you're right, we are just minutes away from tip-off. So that's going to do it for us here in the studio. From everyone here on our crew, from Cameron Miner, I'm Kelsey Calasi. We now send you out to Desert Financial Arena for the matchup between the Arizona State Sun Devils and the Brigham Young Cougars here on Pac-12 Plus.